Do you hate the fact that people have speculated that you guys will try to control your destiny, kind of like John Elway did when he didn't want to go to the Baltimore Colts and it worked out for him and he went to Denver? Eli didn't want to go to San Diego, went to the Giants, and both have won titles. Is there any truth to any of that you guys are going to be a little picky about who picks you at number one?
I'm not going to go down that road. With all due respect, and whether I like the speculation or dislike it, it's irrelevant. It's part of what drives the industry, and as a sports executive, I understand that. But I really do believe it's inappropriate to comment about things that pertain to his professional career. Let's let him get through college. I think that's is a reasonable request. I'm having a great time watching the Stanford team and watching my son. And it just sort of reminds me of how much fun college football is. And when you see 95,000 people at the L.A. Coliseum on a perfect Southern California night, watching two very talented teams, duke it out, two very talented quarterbacks. Matt Barkley is every bit the player that Andrew is. That's just great entertainment and a lot of fun.
What's it feel like being the most popular football father in the football world?
Well, my wife and I are very proud of Andrew. He's a good football player. He's a good student. He tries to do things the right way, and we're obviously big supporters of Stanford. We have a daughter playing volleyball out there, so we've got two kids doing the college sports thing. I try to keep it all in perspective. Andrew certainly keeps it in perspective. When I go to the games, I sit with the parents and just try to enjoy watching the kids play, and we're obviously rooting for them. But it's fun because I'm having a great time watching the Stanford team and watching my son, and it just sort of reminds me of how much fun college football is. And when you see 95,000 people at the L.A. Coliseum on a perfect Southern California night, watching two very talented teams, duke it out, two very talented quarterbacks. Matt Barkley is every bit the player that Andrew is. That's just great entertainment and a lot of fun.
By the way, I know I've got thousands of Dolphin fans listening. How do you think he would look in a Dolphin uniform?
I'm sure he'd look fine in almost any uniform.
What goes through your mind when you hear the word savior? Because that's basically what they're labeling your son. And you've played in this league. You know what the NFL is like. And there aren't a lot of guys that you can label saviors in this league. You got to be pretty special to be able to lift an entire organization. A lot of people are expecting that your son will be able to do something like that. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, I would argue that there's only one person who's walked in the face of the earth who's really a savior. All other uses of that word are really hyperbole at the end of the day. There's a lot of chatter about college football and about pro football, and I think that everybody who plays the sport understands that. A lot of the chatter is meaningless. Some of it's fairly intelligent analysis. A lot of it's sort of, from the hip meaningless. And, I think all quarterbacks understand that. It arguably is the most, scrutinized position in sports, for better or for worse. But I think at the end of the day, Andrew loves to compete, and he's enjoying his season now. I don't think he's thinking at all about his professional career. I'm not, to be honest with you, and I've sort of deferred all questions to his professional career until after he finishes his college career, because I think that's, the appropriate way to look at it. Will he have pressure? Absolutely. But, there's not a quarterback playing in the National Football League or playing in college or in high school for that matter, who doesn't feel some pressure on his shoulders. And some players have a great knack at handling pressure. I don't want to compare Andrew to Michael Jordan or any other athlete, but there are some guys that thrive on those pressure-filled situations, and others don't. And at least through the first 2/3 of the season, Andrew's really thrived on that pressure and has performed pretty well. And I'm sure he'll be able to continue to perform pretty well.
Before this whole craziness starts, and now it just started a little bit here, all you've heard is pretty much praise for your son. Phil Simms just recently came out and says, well, I don't see, all the throws out of him. And that's just kind of the start now. We're going to get, when the season ends, are you going to be ready as a father to deal with the negative?
I think Phil was confusing me with Andrew.
But are you going to be ready to hear some of the, I don't know if they're going to find anything negative on your son, but you know how it is. Leading up to the draft, they're going to pick apart everyone. And as a father, that's got to be the toughest thing, if you start hearing people say negative things about your son? Are you ready for that as a father?
Listen, I played in the National Football League, and there's no position, as I'd mentioned, that gets more scrutiny than the quarterback position. And so I understand it. It's part of the industry. It's one of the things that makes, I think, professional football in the NFL so popular. It's a hard position to play. It really is. There are no guarantees in life, in terms of drafting players. I mean, the draft is replete with great stories like Tom Brady in the 6th round, and we all know about the first-round guys that didn't pan out. So the question, am I ready? Sure. I mean, it's part of the industry, and having been in the industry as a player and for 25 years as an executive, I certainly understand that and appreciate it and expect it. I mean, it's part of the game.